your gender that we're gonna treat you as within society is based on what you got in your trousers. So drop your britches and let's have a look. That's what they want. I don't get it. It's gross. It's creepy, especially because they want to do it to children.
Hello, hello, my beauties and bees. Thank you so much for joining me tonight in Creation Watch. We are going to be visiting somebody brand new this time, and they are a clown and a half. You all will get a kick at them. You'll recognize them as soon as I mention them. But I did mention in Cryptic Corner, the segment right before this one, that this person was also fooled by that Satanist who claimed that he was the person on the plane when they talked about it, which, for what it's worth, and I'm sorry if y'all don't like my munchy or my crunchy munchy dragonfly loading or waiting screen. It's just a goof, really. Yeah, I wasn't trying to annoy anybody, so please let me know if you want me to change it. I just like the dragonfly eating the yeah, the chewing's done. That's what I was just talking about, the chewing. It's just that dragonfly eating the hornet is what it was. Yeah, but it's over now. I didn't know it was going to bother people. Some people I think it's funny. Anyway, welcome to Creation Watch, where we're going to dive into some of the more asinine reasons that people have for their belief systems and how they work in actual reality and how they contrast with reality. And I'm a big science nerd, right? And I'm all about like following the scientific method. I'm not. I'm a physicalist. Some people might say I'm like a follower of scientism, but I don't apply that label. I'm actually have some different views than a lot of atheists because I'm a big proponent of the Gaia hypothesis, for instance. That's not a real common thing that people talk about. I think a lot of people, once they dig into it, will realize that they probably believe it too. But there's actually campaigns against that now, saying that, oh no, it's not really as these like the mycelial networks and stuff are not really as complex as they claim they are. But the freaking wild places in the world aren't nearly as complex and wide-reaching as they used to be either. So take it for what it is. But this person that we're covering today is you'll recognize him. Hold on, let me pull him up. You know who this guy is? This is Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire. He says he's fine with being called anti-science, and he gives a 25-minute speech that we're gonna wallow through. So get your barf bags ready, because here comes Michael Knowles.
You know, Franciscan is one of the very first schools that I ever spoke at after I published my blank book and started my... For some reason, it followed that I had a public speaking career after the blank book. And this was one of the first schools I ever spoke at. Since that time, I've been to many college campuses, and every single time, you know what happens? The libs call me all sorts of names. They do me, lovable me. Can you imagine?
Lovable you. Yeah, right.
All the usual ones. They call me racist, sexist.
You are racist. You are sexist.
Phobic.
Phobic, yeah. I think
you're
phobic.
The charge they hurl at me most often these days: anti-science. They do.
So yes, he is anti-science.
I do. Doesn't matter what I'm talking about. Could be talking about the coronavirus, gender, global warming, whatever. The most frequent act.
You're wrong about all of those things, and global warming is like old-timey language. It's climate change. Get with the this is the same people who they refuse to update their understanding of psychology, even of sociology. They just refuse to move forward.
Accusation these days, tantamount to a charge of blasphemy, is that I am anti-science. And to that accusation, I say, guilty as charged.
Yep.
I know that
Same
many
page.
conservatives fear being called anti-science because it makes them feel foolish and ignorant. That's why they try to ground all of their arguments in scientific jargon. You know, when the liberals call us anti-science for...
It's not just the liberals. It's everybody, the whole rest of the world. It's not just the liberals, and it's not, the U.S. liberals are the only people who think you're anti-science. No, everybody in every other country, because America has the biggest conservative, the most conservative government in the Western world as far as science denialism. I mean, where are you gonna Saudi Arabia maybe? Might be worse. I know the most places in the free world, your science denialism based on your religion is a fringe idea. You are fringe, so it's not just the liberals when you are the fringe.
Denying their alleged breakthroughs in the science of sex and gender. What do the conservatives do? We hurl it right back at them. We accuse them of being anti-science for denying the scientific reality of sex. We refer to biological males, biological females, as if biology were the only thing that mattered in the whole world. When the libs accuse us of being
Yeah, well, so I'm a biological female. I'm biological and I'm female. I don't know. I'm taking hormones to make my body female, to make me physically, express phenotypic traits of a female. So, reproductively, I'm male, but that's only a little bitty piece of me. Like the rest, like if you were to color in a chart of me, everything of the rest of me would be one color, and then the what's affected by my reproductive gametes that I produce and by my genitalia would just be this little tiny area about the probably fit inside a grapefruit. The whole system. That's not who I am. That's just a little part of me, little tiny part. Not anything that I should build my whole existence up around. I mean, my brain, if I'm going to build my existence around any part of me, it's going to be my brain, which is what helps me function and tells my body what hormones to make where. So, why don't we just stick with what's my brain says instead of what this little reproductive system that I have? And I'm not even, for me personally, I'm not even using it anymore. So who gives a fuck about it?
Science for objecting to their taking away all of our rights and freedoms and way of life for 2 years.
I just mean I don't have any intentions of having any more kids from this point forward. So, yeah.
What do? Why, we throw that insult right back at them. We say, no, you're anti-science. And then we recite a litany of scientific arguments for why hankies on our face would not prevent a global pandemic. As if there were no other reason other than science.
So this is still rebutting the efficacy of wearing masks to prevent the spread of communal disease. Something that's like proven, like it's not hypothetical, it's not theoretical science. It's been proven time and again. We have medical wards with people with communal diseases that have staff that will go in with masks on and don't get the disease because they're wearing the mask. This works in the real world. This works in the medical field. It's basic PPE. It's not theoretical. You are so dumb, Michael Knowles. You and Matt and Matt. Yeah, I was about to say Matt Powell. Oh, good. I can't remember his name. You and the other Matt guy from the Daily Wire. What's his name?
Science, not to give all of our political
Walsh.
power away to
That's what it is. Walsh.
a diminutive technocrat in a lab coat.
Oh, since the people telling you wear a mask are diminutive technocrats in lab coats. What the hell? What are you even talking about at this point? It's scientists and doctors. You just don't believe them because they disagree. You think that you have a position to disagree with them, that you know more science than them. It's ridiculous. I'm only 2 minutes into this 25.5-minute video.
The liberals call us anti-science for doubting that the world will end in 10 years. I think probably more like 8 or 9 years now. I forget when AOC made the prophecy.
So here's the root of the problem. You say this is what the scientists and lab coats are saying, but then when you cite where you're getting your information from, you're getting it from politicians, from people trying to push legislation with hyperbolic, and I don't always agree with that. I don't agree with politicians like saying doomsday, like a doomsday clock thing. It's all speculative, but it's not, I shouldn't say it's all speculative. It's based on math and science, and I don't agree with them saying that this is the cutoff point, right? There's always extenuating circumstances that change things, but we do see an overall trend, and we do see a problem, and we know what we need to do to stop it, and we know that carbon is the issue, but they don't want to talk about that. Oh God.
When they call us anti-science for doubting that, if we don't destroy our...
AOC is not a scientist. She doesn't predict the future. AOC is a politician. Why are you getting your science from politicians, Michael Knowles?
Economy and radically alter the way that we eat, work, get around, heat our homes, do pretty much everything else that we do. What do we say? We say, nuh-uh, you're anti-science. And then we cite our own statistics about sea levels and storms and temperatures and whatever.
You don't have any. There's no real true scientist out there who agrees with you. Like, there's no climate scientist that a negligible amount. You want to ignore that 1.5% of people in the queer community that are trans, but you want to acknowledge the 0.001% of scientists that disagree with climate change.
As though science were the ultimate, the only authority when it comes to ascertaining
truth.
I'm sick of it. I don't care if the liberals call me foolish or ignorant or a knuckle-dragging troglodyte.
Luddite is what I would call you. Luddite, not a troglodyte. Troglodytes are chimpanzees, which are charismatic and intelligent, if not slightly brutal. I don't think that you're anything like a troglodyte. I think you're a Luddite.
I don't. I'm not going to play their game. I am not going to worship their false god. I am not going to take their epistemological bait. It may be true, okay?
Epistemological bait. Scientific facts are epistemological bait now.
That they call us anti-science, fine. Science is totally fake. There, I said it.
Oh, here we go. He's going to say, reality is not real. The only reality is with Jesus or some crap like that.
I don't care. Conservatives say we're not anti-science. Maybe that's true, but we damn well should be, as far as I'm concerned. We should, at the very least, be much more skeptical of the pretenses of science than we are right now. For starters, I don't know if you all are history buffs in this room, but as a purely historical matter, science has been wrong about pretty much everything at some point for all of history.
Oh, goodness. And I wonder who corrected them when they were wrong. I wonder who did that. I wonder who did the experiments that he's about to talk about.
I'm not just talking about the past couple of years. I'm not just talking about the World Health Organization and the CDC and the NIH and our old pal, Dr. Fauci, all of whom...
But it trends towards getting better and more accurate, whereas a religious dogma, you plant your heels in the ground and refuse to budge. That's what holds people back, buddy.
Made mistakes and told outright lies about COVID, its origin, the masks, the social distancing, the vaccines, the lockdowns, and most everything else. I'm not even talking about relatively recent historical scientific flubs, say at 1949 when the neurologist Antonio Ega Moniz won the Nobel Prize for inventing the lobotomy. Little bit of a black mark on science, but I'm not even...
It's not, though. We learned a lot from doing lobotomies. We learned it was terrible that it was through, that people had to suffer through it. Terrible, but we learned a lot about brain activity and how the brain functions through decades of test on these features. And people have been, and let's not oversell that. People have been doing tree panning for thousands of years. That's not anything new. The putting a hole in your head right there is been practiced in many different cultures throughout time.
Even just talking about that, I mean to look much more broadly at the category of science as a whole, because virtually every single scientific theory about every single thing has been disproven, upended, or replaced at some point.
No, they just build onto them. They don't replace or upend. If we get new data, we just replace the old data with the new data, or put the new data in with the old data and mix it around and see what we get and run the median off that. And then we can continue to do that. And that's how we get trends. That's how science works, Michael. Jesus. Yeah, you look for trends in the data. If something changes, if you get different results, if you get negative results from your work, but you have to do the science, Michael. We have to do the science in order to get things better. We have to do the lobotomies. We have to go through the Frankenstein science to get to the good stuff that'll help make the world better for the next generations. And I'm sorry you don't understand that.
There was, for example, the theory of the spontaneous generation of life, widely accepted for millennia that complex life springs from inanimate objects.
Because of religious dogma. Why are you going to leave that out? Why are you going to leave out that part? That the reason people believe this is because it was the dogma of the religion that they were part of.
That was knocked down in the 19th century by Louis Pasteur, who proved biogenesis.
Louis Pasteur, a scientist. Oh, wow. A scientist did science and discovered some scientific stuff that changed the way we viewed the world and changed the theory. And you can keep in mind that spontaneous generation wasn't like a scientific theory. The idea of scientific theories didn't even exist back in Pasteur's time, really. There was treaties and stuff that people would write on different topics, but there was no peer review process, and all that wasn't codified. But the idea of spontaneous generation was just the generally accepted idea pushed by the Catholic Church, which is who Michael Knowles stands up here on the stage representing, pushed by the Catholic Church unchallenged up until Pasteur did his experiment and said, nope, you're wrong about how this happens.
The notion that life is generated only from other life, the diversity of which it was held for millennia derives from a single act of creation, a theory that was replaced, according to scientists of the 17th century, by a theory of transmutation, and then the genealogical ascent of species, which was in turn replaced in the next century by Jean-Baptiste Lamarck's theory that organisms pass on traits that they acquired during their lives to their children. That was a theory that was in turn disproven and replaced in the following century by Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection and by Mendelian inheritance, which in turn has been complicated, if not contradicted, by the observation of epigenetics and a return to the formerly discredited views of Lamarck.
So let me make this perfectly clear. We have not returned to Lamarckian genetics because of epigenetics. That's not what epigenetics are. That's not what they do. That's not how they work. No, sir. No, sir. Epigenetics is just retaining characteristics in your genome from an ancestral population that can be triggered by environmental factors. But that gene is not being created whole cloth, like Lamarck said. There's not a new gene to deal with these physical environmental factors. It's not like, oh, we have to adjust to deal with this. We have to get longer necks to reach these higher leaves. It's that our ancestors had longer necks, so that gene's going to be activated when population, and just this is just hypothetical, in a population where they're needing to survive by being taller, the ones that activate that gene activates in because of the environmental pressures will have that benefit.
Of which has been questioned in recent years.
Sorry if that sounded ranty.
Not only by kooks and cranks, but by very serious scientists with very stellar academic credentials. I'm thinking of David Berlinski from Princeton, David Gelernter from Yale, who have argued that the theory of evolution is no longer mathematically tenable. I don't mention any of these theories of life to endorse one over another.
I don't think that that's what they actually said. Who do you quote?
Argued that the theory of evolution is no longer
who said
mathematically formerly discredited views of Lamarck, all of which has been questioned in recent years, not only by kooks and cranks, but by very serious scientists with very stellar academic credentials. I'm thinking of David Berlinski from Princeton, David Gelernter from Yale, who have argued that the theory of evolution is no longer mathematically tenable. I don't mention any of these theories of life to endorse one over another, but simply to show that that's science, you know.
David Berlinski.
Isn't she?
Okay, hold on. He's not by cranks and kooks. David Berlinski has written Science After Babel, Human Nature. He's a mathematician. He's got anti-Darwin books, The Devil's Delusion. He's a crank. He is a crank. He's absolutely a crank. He's just a crank with a degree. You can still have a degree and be a crank. He's from the Discovery Institute. The Discovery Institute, which we've covered on here ad nauseum. And who was the other guy he mentioned? So he's throwing these names out. Who was the other scientist he mentioned?
All of which has been questioned in recent years, not only by kooks and cranks, but by very serious scientists with very stellar academic credentials. I'm thinking of David Berlinski from Princeton, David Gelernter from Yale, who have argued that the theory of evolution is no longer mathematically tenable. I don't mention any of these.
And Gelernter is a computer scientist. He is in addition known for his views against women in the workforce and the rejection of the scientific consensus regarding anthropogenic climate change and evolution. These are, what are you talking about? These are the cranks. You said not cranks and kooks. These are cranks and kooks. Against women in the workforce. He was also sent a mail bomb by Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. That's pretty weird. He's an anti-scientist. Yeah. Let's go on, Michael.
To endorse one over another, but simply to show that that's science, you know. She's a fickle lady, isn't she? She is. And though the scientists are frequently wrong, they are almost never in doubt. Which is why today scientists, and really not even so much the scientists as the broader disciples of science.
And keep in mind, look at this audience. Dudes talking to children, basically, telling them not to accept science. They don't look impressed, though. Look at Homeboy in the front here. He's like, ah. He's pressing X to doubt what this fool's selling.
Current consensus on any matter that they deem important. Any topic. Global warming, the origin of life, human sexuality, you name it. We must believe precisely the view that just so happens to be fashionable in the year of our Lord 2022.
It's not a view that's fashionable. It's a view that's played out by the data, by the numbers, by the facts. You're just mad that you're in a minority that you're upset that the world's built on a bell curve and you're on one of the margins when it comes to understanding and believing in this stuff, or being able to understand and accept the data. Your brain's not capable, I don't think. Not everybody. Michael Knowles is exceptionally stupid. I mean, he's not playing with a full deck, like intelligence wise, and he's very much the butt of the joke at the Daily Wire when you watch like their silly commercials and stuff, like the chocolate bar commercial where his job is to be the doofus and stand there and smile like a clown. And yeah, and believe me, I watch Daily Wire stuff because I need to know what these people are saying, and also it's generally 100% hilarious. Like I used to watch them through other content creators, but more and more I just watch their stuff raw, so I can just have my own responses to it and laugh about it. But so and I wonder when I do that how many people who actually view their content, what percentage of them are people who are just doing it for the lulz like me. Like, because we know that their ideas are not popular, right? We know that this that the people at the Daily Wire, the MAGA right, not the regular right, the MAGA right, their ideas are bad. They don't have like their ideas about equality between men and women. Like he's citing a guy who wants to wants to have women not in the workforce.
Or else we are ignorant, idiot science deniers. Although wildly divergent and contradictory scientific theories have constantly
Good morning, Gur.
cropped up and collapsed throughout all of human history, today apparently the scientists have resolved every problem and know everything about every other thing, and that's never going to change, and only a dummy wouldn't trust them. Now some will object and say, Michael, you're cherry picking. Most other scientific theories are not so meandering and contradictory, but rather show a steady development and progress. Say, for example, our understanding our own place in the universe. Contrary to a popular misconception, we have pretty much always known that the Earth is not flat. Pythagoras postulated a spherical Earth about 500 years before Christ, but the ancient models placed the Earth, and therefore man, at the center of the universe. In the 2nd century AD, the astronomer Ptolemy observed that the planets don't appear to orbit the Earth in perfect circles. Some planets, in fact, like Mars, seem to go backwards sometimes before they go forward. Again, this gave rise to the theory of planetary epicycles, the idea that the planets go around in circles as they more broadly go around the Earth in circles. This theory was replaced in the 16th century by Copernicus and the heliocentric model, which held that planets, including the Earth, revolve around the sun. Though a preface to his book, The Revolutions of the Celestial Spheres, insisted that this model was only for the purpose of calculation and not to be taken literally. This is why Copernicus was treated more nicely than, say, Mr. Galileo or some other people. Decades later, Tycho Brahe upended all of those previous models by showing that the celestial spheres do not exist, which has given way to various and sundry theories of the universe as finite and infinite and static and expanding. Today,
all these people you had so much Catholicism built into early astrology, especially. I don't know. People deny it. Is he going to start denying that science as well, that we've made new advancements in the way we understand how the mechanics of the universe? He's going to be like, oh, they were wrong.
The predominant view is known as the Big Bang, which was observed by Father George Lemaitre, though present-day liberals who are unsatisfied with a theory that corresponds so well with the Christian account of creation have theorized, with no evidence whatsoever, that we're all living in a multiverse or a simulation or a video game or I don't know, whatever. In any case, the present conception of the cosmos is one in which Earth and man exist as infinitesimally small blips in some far-flung part of cold, dead space. But does that really represent the truth of man's position? In a physical sense, perhaps, man is not the center of the universe. But in a deeper sense, man is, in fact, the center of the universe. Man is where the physical and the metaphysical realms meet. That is not just some flight of fancy. It is not even solely the understanding of Christians or some other religious group. It is, in fact, just a simple fact, accepted.
It's philosophy, I think, is the word he's looking for.
By all people, without which none of us could do any of the things that we do every day. We all know and behave as though, whether we want to admit it or not, man is both body and rational soul.
No, we don't all agree. I don't agree that a soul is a thing. I don't agree that that's something that exists. Yeah. Yeah, funny how he was pro-enlightenment for wrong science, right? We learn we get things wrong, but as we move forward in time, the trend is to get more stuff right. We tend to. We can see this by our advancing technology, our advancing medical science, the fact that we live so much longer. But he wants to deny it, and as much as he wants to deny it, medicine is largely based on the theory of evolution. Modern medicine is built around the theory of understanding how different bacteria and viruses evolve, how the human body evolved. Understanding all of that stuff is what's foundational.
Flesh and intellect. Animals exist in body, but they don't have a rational soul. This is why we don't put cats on trial for scratching people. Ideas exist, much of our lives, if not most of our lives, but ideas do not have bodies. Dreams, joys, terrors, these things exist.
Inside your brain. These are brain things. They do have bodies. It's called a brain.
Angels, demons, these things
are not real.
Exist too, even though some people don't want to admit it.
They aren't. You shouldn't be telling these kids that.
Only
angels and demons do not exist, and they definitely don't have bodies, unless you're talking about statues.
In man do we see the meeting of these two realms. That is the reason that we and we alone in the world can even talk about such things. So, between the two conceptions of the universe that we've just discussed, the ancient view of man at the center of the cosmos and the modern scientific view of man as an inconsequential blip in some far-flung random region of emptiness, which is the more accurate representation of reality? Which tells us more about the way things really are? This is the point in the discussion when one of my favorite words usually crops up, one of the most paradoxical words in the English language. Literally.
I tend to agree.
Well, Michael, it is literally true. That is, they mean it might be figuratively true that man is the center of the universe, but it is literally true that the Earth revolves around the Sun in the Milky Way galaxy, in the Virgo supercluster, in the Laniakea supercluster, in the Pisces Cetus supercluster complex, which is located right in the middle of God only knows where.
Nope, God's not real.
But is that literally true? What does literally even mean? People tend to think of literal as meaning the opposite of metaphorical or symbolic.
I actually think a literal is the opposite of figurative.
But that literally cannot be true because literal refers to letters, which are symbols.
Oh my gosh, this is the same argument that, remember that guy that came in when I was doing Cryptic Corner one time in the side chat and was like, cryptic means it's about writing. You can't talk about supernatural stuff and use the word cryptic. It's like cryptic means strange and unknown, sir. He's doing the same thing with the word literal.
Not being cute or obtuse here. Well, I'm always being cute. I'm always trying to be cute. But I am not being obtuse. This is not just some trick of language or some glib observation. The fact that even literal has a
That's true, Electric Monk. Angels and demons only exist in motorcycle clubs.
Symbolic meaning tells us something important about the nature of reality. This is not a novel use of the word. F. Scott Fitzgerald, James Joyce, Mark Twain, teenage girls since time immemorial have all used literally to mean figuratively. It is not an error, it's a crucial insight. It is the insight that nothing is without.
It's linguistics changing over time. I guess literal as a is used in one context as opposed to used in another. When you hear a teenage girl say, "I literally died," you know she's using literal to mean figuratively as an expression.
Meaning. Modern medical science has led to many fine things. Longer life, better nutrition, better dentistry, I don't know.
But they were wrong. But what about the stuff they were wrong about that they had to go through to get there? What about that, Michael? It's demonic, right?
It has also etched into our minds a new representation of man as purely physical, at the very least fundamentally physical, a machine to be poked and prodded and tuned up. We reflect this in our language. We no longer get excited. We just feel a rush of adrenaline. We no longer feel happy. We get a hit of dopamine. We no longer feel sad or blue or melancholic. Now
you can still use those terms, even though we understand the chemistry and the bioelectric impulses and things behind them. Doesn't mean you can't use them.
Have a chemical imbalance, which is a scientific representation, by the way, that has just recently completely fallen apart, even as...
Oh, we were wrong about something. Here's one of those things we were wrong about. Oh no, let's turn over the whole system.
Representation. But that's how we talk. Modernist...
That was one paper that said, hey, this chemical imbalance thing that we always treating these people for, this isn't actually treating it. It's only treating the symptoms and not the cause. That's what that paper came down to, that giving people SSRIs and things like that treat the cause and not the symptoms. Or, sorry, treats the symptoms and not the cause. I had to say that completely backwards.
Astronomy has led to some wonderful things. Satellites, for instance, for smartphones on which you can listen to the Michael Knowles show. Phones on which you can go to the bookstore and you can order my book, Speechless, Controlling Words, Controlling Minds, Reasons to Vote for Democrats, make superb Christmas presents. The wonderful things about astronomy.
You singing some Boy George out? Are you singing some Boy George out there with us, Tsunami?
Has also created a new representation that makes man appear random and insignificant. And the scientific revolution as a whole, which has helped to build our modern world, has placed in our collective imagination a representation of reality as fundamentally physical. Many of the greatest scientists in history have been religious. At least two of the men that I just mentioned, Mendel and Lemaitre, were Catholic priests. And Copernicus maybe was too. He was at the very least a Catholic canon, if not a priest. So I'm not casting aspersions on scientists. Other than Dr. Fauci, I am casting many aspersions on Dr. Fauci. But
what the hell did Fauci do to piss these people off so much? I never got it. It's just the COVID thing, right? They're just mad that they had to lock down. That they're just mad that they had to wear masks and wash their hands.
But on the other scientists, I'm really not. But our modern conception of reality as fundamentally physical
buy my DVDs
is not the result of some nefarious scientist. It is a feature, not a bug, of the whole scientific revolution, which necessarily considers the world only as physical. The philosopher Owen Barfield predicted all of this half a century.
I understand metaphysical. Numbers are metaphysical, for instance, like as they exist without any representation. Numbers are metaphysical, but not in the way that you seem to think they are.
A century ago, in his book Saving the Appearances, Barfield saw that the scientific worldview, left unchecked, would eventually eliminate all meaning and all coherence from the cosmos. He saw that it would lose its grip on any principle of unity pervading nature as a whole and the knowledge of nature, that it would give rise to the hypothesis of chance, randomness, creeping from the theory of evolution into the theory of the physical foundation of the Earth itself, and still worse, cause an increasing fragmentation of science. Quote, pigeonholed knowledge by individuals of
fragmentation of science.
Or about less and less, which, if persisted indefinitely, can only lead mankind to a sort of idiocy, in which the breakdown of meaning will mean that there will be no means of communication between one intelligence and another. Does that sound familiar? It sounds to me like Owen Barfield got in a time machine and described the year 2022, where the sciences have become absurd and words no longer seem to have any meaning.
What science is absurd? What's the science that's absurd, my good man?
We can no longer even agree on the meaning of the word woman. A Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, we can. Woman is an identity. Generally, adult human female is fine for most situations. However, trans women exist, such as myself, and non-binary women actually do exist as well. There are non-binary women in the world. Sorry to burst anybody's bubble about that, but Yeah, so there's a lot of, there's other subcategories of women too. There's black women, there's white women, there's Melanesian women. There's women that are postmenopausal. There are, yeah, it's just, there's a whole bunch of different subcategories of woman, but generally adult human female fits the bill for most of them. Now, adult is depending on what culture you're in, is when the adult is when you're an adult. Some women aren't adults until they have a child. So some women that we would consider women in this country wouldn't be considered a woman in another country because they hadn't had a child. They'd still be a girl. A lot of different subcategories there. Human, obviously, right now we're the only species of humans still kicking around on the planet. But once upon a time, there were more species of humans that could also be adults and interbreed with us. So they would have been like Neanderthal women. There would have been, I would even go as far as to say Homo habilis women, Australopithecine women, maybe. I don't know. Would you call an Australopithecine a woman? So generally, I would say that we'll stick with the genus Homo, though, just to keep it simple. So, an adult, which is culturally arbitrary, a Homo sapien, within the genus Homo, which covers a few different species, and then female. Now, female's a fun one because that's where we get into the broader spectrum here, because there's people that have phenotypic expressions which are female, like myself, but reproductive systems that are male. There are people who are born with different chromosome alignments or alignments with their chromosomes that don't match up with the bodily expression. Some people have had organs removed, the reproductive system completely removed. There's a lot of factors that come into play here. But generally we all know what's referenced to as a woman within the culture that we live in. It's not confusing. They want to pretend it's confusing because they pretend that they've, before this, we went around and looked down everybody's pants before we decided whether they were a male or whether they were a woman or a man. That's never been normal. This is like a new right-wing movement to make it so, hey, your gender that we're going to treat you as within society is based on what you got in your trousers. So drop your britches and let's have a look. That's what they want. I don't get it. It's gross. It's creepy, especially because they want to do it to children. I'm using their own poison against them. Think of the children. But those are the people that are there wanting to do this. Oh, you want to play sports on this? You want to play sports on this team? Let's have a look at that. Jumps. They're going to sporting events. Michael Knowles people are going to children's, like junior high children's sporting events and harassing cisgendered children, accusing them of being trans.
A woman, in her Senate confirmation hearings, was not able to define woman. Why could she not define it? Well, because
Amy, hey sweetie, I didn't even see you. Mwah. Amy Newman, subscribe to Amy Newman. Do I have a command to say Amy Newman? Yes, I do. It is just exclamation point Amy. There's my girl. Yes. You inspire me, darling. All right, let's continue on.
She said she's not a biologist. This woman is a double Harvard grad. This woman is a federal judge put up for the highest court in the land. But she lacked scientific credentials, and therefore she could not describe even her own identity. By the way, I sympathize with her. I really do.
Because she took the question, what is a woman, posed to her on our freaking, what was it, on the Senate floor, right? If I recall correctly, or was it before the Supreme Court? It was before the Supreme Court. No, it wasn't the Senate floor because Ted Cruz interviewed her. Yeah, he was the one who asked her that question, what is a woman? And the response that she gave was more in response to someone, like what I said, asking, what is a female? is why she said she would defer to science about that, because sure, she's a judge. She can decide what is an adult and what is a human. As a judge, she can say this, this is, but there's been court cases where they've talked about this chimp have human rights and things. So there's legal precedent to say what's a human. Then there's legal precedent, definitely legal precedents to say what's an adult. But what's a female, that portion of it is biological and would have to do with what the person's doctor would say about them. The doctor of a trans person might say their reproductive system's male, if that's what you're talking about, but their phenotypic expression is female. So it's really going to come down to that. I keep using that word phenotypic. We're going to just have to do a whole stream about phenotypes. Maybe I'll get Ben, or it'd be cool if I could get Forrest Valkai to come on. You think Forrest would come on and chat with me about phenotypes?
We conservatives, we all made fun of Justice Jackson, but frankly, our answer to that question has not been all that much better than hers. Our answer to that question, what is a woman, has more or less been genitals and chromosomes. A woman is a person with a womb and 2 X.
Again, what I'm saying is you want to limit it down to the reproductive system. I guess chromosomes for your reproductive chromosomes.
Chromosomes. That's what we've said. Justice Jackson's answer, or non-answer, I guess, is that woman means more than just a womb and 2 X chromosomes.
Right. Even your definition, adult and human.
She was closer to the truth than we conservatives have been.
Yes.
Justice Jackson,
much closer.
Is
karyotype. Yes, karyotype, Steph. Thank you. Obviously, Stephanie Helms, also awesome in the chat. There's an exclamation point, Steph. Or Helms. I don't remember what commands I put.
Mistaken if she believes that some hulking man in a miniskirt can actually be a woman. But she is quite right to acknowledge that women are more than their chromosomes. Ironically, when conservatives define women in that purely physical way, we accept the very soul-denying scientism that the libs have peddled to get us
soul-denying
of meaninglessness.
I do deny the existence of a soul. I ask you for evidence. Evidence of the soul, please, Mr. Knowles.
In the first place, when I was a kid, I was taught that girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. Today,
a serious question to trans women out there. I am a trans woman. Do you have objections to being referred to as a trans woman and not a woman? No. I don't have a trans woman. I don't have a problem with that. I am a trans woman. I don't hide it. I wear it like around my neck. So I wear this necklace everywhere I go, mostly because I want to signal to other trans people and other queer people in general that I'm a safe person to be around. Because I live in a rural area where outing yourself can be problematic. But I'm not afraid for my own life. I'm more concerned about the life of the queer people that are going to come after me. So yeah. Libs. Yeah, karyotype is just your XY or XX chromosomes, but they don't really define you. Your chromosome, your sex chromosomes don't define you, right? There are other systems in your body that, like your endocrine system, really defines a lot of your gender identity, how your body develops as far as secondary sexual characteristics, which is what you alter when I say phenotypes. But I would want to have a scientist on to go more further into detail. A scientist or a doctor, or especially an endocrinologist. That'd be great.
I am told that women are made of X chromosomes, whatever that is. Which representation is closer to the truth? See, of course, it's not even close. Of course, sugar and spice and everything nice. Of course. Of course, that conveys much more clearly the reality of what a woman is than X chromosomes does. Man is...
and I'm not disagreeing with him, because culturally it does. Like us, as across most cultures, women are often, generally speaking, statistically, the fairer sex, the more sugar and spice, if you will, which is, that's what they try to put out into the world, how they try to be reflected, where, what's snakes and snails and puppy dog tails is for the boys. And those are stereotypes, right? Those are cultural stereotypes. They exist as cultural stereotypes, but Michael Knowles thinks they exist as some sort of transcendent quality of the soul, which is really weird Catholicism, I guess.
The center of the universe conveys much more clearly the reality of our position than does a rock around a ball of gas in the Pisces Cetus super galaxy cluster. The image and likeness of God conveys much more precisely the reality of who we are than does carbon and oxygen and 80% water. It is not the case, as many people mistakenly believe today, that the scientific view of things is objectively true, while the philosophical and religious views are mere interesting representations. They're all representations. All of it. They're all just models. They're all just pictures. Whatever image you have in your mind right now of what the universe looks like is only that. It is only an image. Even according to the most modern, fancy scientific models, only 5% of the universe is even visible. All the stars...
But from what we know right now, it might be exponentially larger than that.
The planets, the galaxies, every single thing that you imagine when you imagine the universe, 5%, according to the newest models. 25% of the universe, so 5 times the stuff that you are thinking of, is made up of dark matter, whatever that is. A whopping 70%, so 14 times what you are thinking of as the universe, is made up of dark energy, whatever that is. Okay. Again, it's all sort of a moot point, because whatever picture you
Is this like an argument from big numbers is what we're dealing with here?
Have in your mind a visible universe, the atoms and the protons and the photons and all the other stuff you learned in 8th grade, that is not really what the universe is made of. It's just a picture, and I promise you it is not
homocentrism might be a little more accurate than what I usually use anthropocentrism, but because they other anthropoids probably don't fall in that category for Mr. Knowles.
Not a particularly accurate picture at that. Whatever we picture in our heads is necessarily a representation, scientific, religious, anything in between. That's not a bad thing. Representations are necessary for making sense of the world, for saving the appearances, to use Owen Barfield's phrase. But representations become idols when we mistake them for ultimate...
We'll be here when you get back, Ryan. No worries.
...reality. And while we easily recognize idols in the context of religion, the scientific revolution, with its attendant magic and wonders, has rendered us oblivious to the ubiquitous idolatry of science. This is not only true of the libs, this is true of conservatives as well. It is not just the libs who wrap themselves in the...
So in his worldview, is there only libs and conservatives? Because even within conservatives, there's multiple groups. There's the MAGA crowd, and then there's the Rhino crowd, right? I mean, they're not the same people. They're not the same guy like they used to be before. Back in 2016, they united under Trump, and then after the Capitol riots, now they split into 2 factions. You got the rhinos and the elephants, I guess, the MAGA. The Rhino, I guess that means Republican in name only, which is the actual right wing, and then the MAGA crowd is the far right wing. The actual right wing is posing this general right wing kind of position, and then they get this idea that everything left of the rhinos is liberals, but even our Democratic Party is the center. They're not, and they're corporatists. They're corporatists. Their centrist corporatist position is what most sitting Democrats are. There are a few that may be considered liberal or sock Dems. AOC comes to mind. There's also what's her name? Was it Crocker? What's her first name? I can't remember. She's the young black representative from Tennessee. Anyway, she's probably what you'd call a sock dem too. But there's no actual. But and sock dems are probably the most right leaning of the left. And then from there you get communists and tankies and socialists, and yeah, it gets complicated on the left. But it's complicated on the right too. I just don't care enough to parse Nazis from Proud Boys.
Mantle of science, but we conservatives too, who reach for scientific observations to prove all of our points. When conservatives object to transgenderism, it is not usually on the basis of...
It's not transgenderism. Transgenderism isn't a thing. There's transgender people. They don't have transgenderism. It's not a disease. We are just transgender people.
The complementarity of the sexes.
Stacey Abrams, there you go.
The basis of
I'd vote for Stacey Abrams over Biden. Definitely.
the purpose and duties that go along with sex. Usually it's on the
duties that go along with sex. What are those duties? If Ryan's not back from the bathroom, we'll see how much of if she can tell us about the duties of sex, because she was wanting to come back on the Hive. We can talk about more Michael Knowles sometime, Ryan. I'd love to have you on to do that.
Science. We say, so-and-so is a biological male. So-and-so is a biological female.
There's no such thing as biological. Well, I mean, all males are biological males and all females are biological females. That includes trans people. We're all biological. I think it's stupid and weird to call cis people biological. They're just doing that to separate us out. Yeah. I would, yeah. And again, Ryan, I see that you're back from your bathroom break. Would you be interested in coming on and covering more Michael Knowles with me sometime? I'd love to have you back on. We can talk about women as property and all that yucky stuff that the Catholic Church pushes.
As though one could somehow simultaneously be a biological male and a spiritual female and a philosophical...
There's no such thing. A spiritual female. Spiritual female, whatever the heck that is.
Whatever. And...
philosophical orangutan. Like Dr. Zayas?
That is, the scientific representation, were the ultimate authority, which it is not. We more readily mistake the scientific representations for ultimate reality because we flatter ourselves with our advancement in technology. We have Teslas and iPhones, so we delude ourselves into thinking that we have demystified the universe. I can doom scroll on that little portal to hell that I keep in my pocket. So therefore, I have comprehended ultimate reality, haven't I? I don't think so. That is nothing but flattery. Yes, we can tweet and drive and fly, but even our most sophisticated scientific perspective leaves us unable to answer fairly basic questions. Just consider the three-body problem. I've always loved the three-body problem. Say you've got three bodies. You got the sun, the moon, and the earth.
I think he's talking about parallax here. Trigonometry is hard, my dude.
Position and velocity of all three bodies. It should be very simple to know the subsequent motion of those bodies, right? Because we're really smart and we have iPhones and Teslas and we're so scientific, right? Except we can't do it. And not only can we...
Is Leo still out there? Is Leo Ophelia still with us? Because this sounds like something he might know about. Let me see. No, Leo's gone. The three-body problem. I don't understand what he's talking about, but it sounds like he's talking about trigonometry and saying we can't do trig.
Not know the subsequent motion of those bodies, but we can know for a fact that we cannot know it. It turns out that there is no general closed-form solution for their motion. Take Hilbert's problems. If anyone has taken a college math course, you've probably heard of Hilbert's problems. 23 problems in mathematics put forward at the turn of the 20th century by the mathematician David Hilbert. 122 years later, not only do many of the questions remain unresolved or only partially resolved, but in fact the first two, the continuum hypothesis and the consistency of the axioms of arithmetic, have been proven to be impossible to prove. Why do I mention this? Is it to discourse on Gödel and Cantor and all the other mathematicians whose work I don't understand?
Does that include Gödel's incompleteness theorem? Does Michael Knowles know about Gödel's incompleteness theorem? I doubt it.
At all? No, it certainly is not. Rather, it is to point out the severe limitations of human knowledge, not just what we...
It's funny because the problem he was just talking about sounded more like Gödel's incompleteness theorem than it did anything to do with trig, but he said three bodies. I don't know where that came from.
Don't know. But what we provably cannot possibly know. The scientific worldview, more than other representations, has flattered us into believing that we can comprehend and therefore control ultimate reality. It is the pretense of the mad scientist in the laboratory and the serpent in the Garden of Eden, the lie that we shall be as gods. In reality, that appeal to our pride has brought...
Screw you, dude. I'm getting my robot body. So I'm going to get a full-blown robot body. I'm going to be a head in a glass container like on Futurama, right? There'll be the dome over my head. My head will be in there. I have my kick-ass robot body with big old robot boobies. Yep. It's going to happen.
Fun technological trinkets, overwhelming disenchantment and confusion about who we are, about what we are for, about what is a man, about what is a woman. The scientific liberals...
You think Matt Walsh is pissed about him stealing his thunder with this what is a woman stuff?
Call us ignorant. We are. We are ignorant, though perhaps not quite so ignorant as they, if at least we know it and can admit it. They call us anti-science.
Thank you, Steph. It's a Newtonian gravity theory. Yeah, okay.
Fine by me. It is good to see that the earth revolves around the sun. It is better to see the love that moves the sun and the other stars. Thank you very much.
Love that moves the other stars. So that was a little bit of Creation Watch with none other than Michael Knowles. So, eek, pretty gross stuff. Actually, it churned my live chat all around and actually got shuffled my moderator deck a little bit. So, yeah, that was wild. A wild ride. And what is a woman and all that good stuff. I have to address it. All right, so I know some people are here for the sharks because it's July, which I do a shark segment every week in July. I got sharks coming up. Not just sharks though. We're also we got two topics. We got a Paleo peak with sharks, and then we have some strange science with some otters. So I'll see you guys over there.